But in my feeling, it is a living tradition. And it's one, like many living traditions, it's one that comes alive the more you work at it and the more you actually practice it. So I remember the astrologer Richard Tarnas, who's written some very famous books now, sort of bestsellers, not just within the astrology field. And his most famous one, I believe, is Cosmos and Psyche. And he and some colleagues are doing some amazing webinars, which you'll find on YouTube. But I vividly remember, and this is now from a conference in 1994, where a young woman, obviously a new-ish astrology student, and was obviously feeling somewhat overwhelmed by the incredible range of different techniques that one can apply and different approaches and so forth. And she was basically asking the question of, well, how do I know what to work with, And I'll never forget Richard's reply. He said, in astrology, meaning applied astrology, not scholarly astrology, you can only work with what is burnished into your soul. In other words, it's our inner connection with the material and the field that enables us to do what we do, really. And there's no kind of direct, infallible formula for getting that. It's not something which can be got. It's something that comes by grace in response to the love and the dedication of the student. And not only the student, I think that's true of someone immersed in astrology for their whole lives. You can't drum that up to order. It is grace. Also, I think that the amount of knowing and knowledge that is revealed is really according to need, because we do now live in the age of information, or some people say it's the age of misinformation. But at any rate, there is truly an explosion of astrological information out there. Now, information doesn't guarantee deeper understanding or wisdom. Not at all. So information can leave one, with one's head buzzing with all kinds of ideas flying around in it, which don't really go anywhere, don't really connect. And so there is, an ancient esoteric principle where, inner knowledge is granted on a need basis. So if there are things we don't need to know about, they won't be shown to us. And yet if we approach astrology sincerely with a wish for clarification or inspiration or guidance, it will come. And it's something which comes to some people very easily and naturally, and I like to imagine those people have done it before, like in another life, and so forth. And yet with others, it takes a lot of study, like years and years of study and hard work, to get to that point where the wisdom stream is opened, so to speak. So it's also a very individual thing. And people's individual relationship with the whole field and what it means that's very important. So in many ways it's difficult to generalize about it. And also, even though there's an increasing number of ancient texts which have been translated from the original language into English. There's really very little material which really speaks to what the ancient practitioners were experiencing and doing with the astrology that they were learning and practicing. Like the astrologer's journal. And I think of a parallel here, that although many fine astrologers have written many fine books, which will live on after they die, in truth, we won't really know exactly what was going on in the inner worlds as they were learning and as the wisdom was coming to them, And so, to go back to what I said before, it's like pretty much if you pursue the understanding of astrology in pretty much any direction, you get to the edge of the great mysteries, which can't be explained very easily. And in some ways we could say they're not meant to be, because explanation, that's a very left brain activity, trying to get something into order or to make sense. But the way that the knowledge of astrology touches us can be so much more than that,